Hi, my name is Garrett Becker, and I'm a Principal Research Analyst at 451 Research, which is now a part of S&P Global Market Intelligence. And I'm very happy today to be joined by Mr. Den Jones, who's the Chief Security Officer at BuyIn Security. So thank you very much for joining us today, Den.
Hey Garrett, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Today we're going to talk about a topic that's been near and dear to my heart for the past few years, and it's also gotten a lot of hype and buzz in the marketplace. And it's the idea of zero trust. And one of the issues that I have is if you pull back the onion a little bit and you look at actual deployments versus interest levels, we've seen, I think about a year and a half ago, about 13% enterprise deployment. And back in October, it jumped to 23%, which is great, but it's still well below other things like firewalls and endpoint security. So I think it's fair to say that zero trust has a little bit of a ways to go before it becomes mainstream. So that leads us into our first question for today. And that is basically, what are some of the obstacles and what are some of the reasons that deployments are lower, and what do we need to do to sort of get things moving in the right direction?
Yeah, that's a great question, Garrett. I mean, there's three things here, right? So the first thing is marketing. Everyone is marketing themselves as a zero trust vendor. And zero trust means many things to different people because you've got all these different companies saying they do zero trust. So if you read one company's white paper on zero trust, you get one perspective, and then you'll get another from another company. Now, that leads on to the next problem is really, where do you start, right? So it's like, I don't know where to start because everyone's angle and the education that's out there is so varied that no one really knows how to begin. And then the third piece is everybody makes it sound so complicated. They make it feel like it's really hard to get going. And it's one of those never-ending things. So if you're going to deploy a firewall, you know there's a start and end to deploying a firewall, and then there's operational life after that. But when you're talking about something like zero trust, you're trying to peel back that onion layer to what is it, where do I start, and then you get put off by this thing that seems to be so complicated. I was fortunate in my last two companies before joining BuyIn that we deployed in two large enterprise environments. And one was 5 months and one was 7 months. And that's a combined 150,000 users. So I certainly have the experience to say it doesn't have to be that complicated, and it doesn't have to be one of those never-ending endeavors.
So would you say that the barriers are more technical or political? Because you led some zero trust deployments at some big companies like Adobe and Cisco. And I guess the question in my mind is, what are maybe the secret to getting executive buy-in and sponsorship at some of the senior levels of the corporation?
Some of it's very political. I mean, the way that this is structured as a solution or an architecture. So you think of like zero trust, I think of it as a bit of an architecture, a bit of a strategy. But it's one of those that blends between identity and networking. And the first thing when you're trying to talk about getting some momentum in a company, especially at an executive level, you're trying to appeal to both of those teams that run those services and capabilities, as well as the security leader and the IT leader. So I spent a lot of my time in the previous efforts working with our CIO and CSO just to ensure that the three of us were aligned on what the objectives are and what the outcomes would be. And I think this is the most important thing about any of these initiatives is stray away from worrying about is it called zero trust or not, and go directly to what are the outcomes I'm going to deliver and the business benefits. The minute we started to do that, then everybody was really excited by what we were going to deliver because they knew they could see it, touch it, feel it.
So what about somebody at a smaller firm, say, that maybe doesn't have the same level of resources as an Adobe or a Cisco or a Google?
Yeah, I mean, so provided they've got a team that runs the identity platform, a team that runs their existing VPN platform, and then a team that does their endpoint management, endpoint security stuff, you're really leveraging the exact same resources. I mean, one of the things that I continually tell people about is this isn't necessarily a huge investment because you're doing a lot of these things today with the people that you've already got in your organization. It's really about bringing them together in a way to get some common outcomes.
Got it. And what would you say might be maybe some some, I don't know, quick wins or some common ground that you might find for somebody that's looking to do one of these deployments?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is if you look at just the way people log in, for traditionally in the identity industry, you've logged in with username and password. Then over the years we were doing multi-factor authentication, but we were never looking at the posture of the device. So a really good quick win is to actually say, hey, we're going to enforce some posture checking of devices and actually enable users to self-remediate. So we would see thousands of devices, posture improving really, really quickly, and all because the users themselves were like, oh, I didn't realize the firewall wasn't enabled, or I didn't realize this wasn't done. And in some companies where they're not fully MDM and forcing that configuration, it's a really great way for users to self-improve the security posture on all their devices.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just about, it's not good enough to just authenticate the user, right? You also have to authenticate the device. So agree 100%. What might be maybe some unanticipated benefits of doing zero trust that maybe somebody might not think about, or might there possibly be some happy surprises along the way?
Yeah, so one thing I loved during our journeys in both companies was we removed the need to change passwords every 90 days. And when you do that, there's a bunch of great benefits. First of all, the user frustration drops because they're not every 90 days like spending 15 minutes trying to recover their first, 2 or 3 devices. And then the other thing, but the biggest thing, was the service desk ticket reduction. Password change related tickets are in the top 10 of all service desks in all enterprises. It's really common across the industry. The minute you change from needing a password change every 90 days to not, all of a sudden you can see like 60 to 80% ticket reduction just on password related tickets. So that was really, really cool.
Interesting. What about user experience too? Because that's something I've been harping on for the past couple of years. Why MFA adoption levels aren't higher. I generally find the user experience is not very good. What about the admin user experience, or in a DevOps environment? How does that fit in, and how important is that for making sure you get zero trust right?
Yeah, well, there's 3 audiences, right? So first of all, you've got to understand the audiences you're working with. You've got end users where you might have thousands and thousands of them. You've got IT admins that manage and support the thing you've deployed, and there's few of them. But then you've got engineers who are building and developing that help run your business. Almost all companies these days are a technology company because they all leverage automation and IT and technology to try and improve the cost of their operation. So ensuring, and this is the most important thing, our goal in this is just to enable all of these people to access their apps and services as seamlessly and frictionlessly as possible, and in a secure way. So if you can enable someone to do DevOps and work on platforms and infrastructure and code without always getting bombarded with yet another security requirement, and they can get straight to doing their business, the company will be more efficient, the users will be happy, and you'll see your profits go up.
Excellent. Agree 100%. Maybe one last one. This sounds like a cliche a little bit, but to me, zero trust is really a journey, right? It's not a discrete, set it and forget it kind of thing. I mean, would you agree that it's more of a process and a journey?
I would say anytime you're delivering any service whatsoever, you're always on a journey. There's a thing called continual service improvement. So the reality for us in both our experience deployments was we were going from getting initial deployment with some basic posture checking, some basic access for apps and services, and then gradually improving and gradually adding more features and capabilities. I always think about like a little bit more whiz bang along the way. You really want to try and improve the experience along the way. But if you don't start small and with a simple use case, then you kind of never get off the ground. But what we done within 5 months in Cisco and 7 months in Adobe was we managed to deliver that initial user experience with passwordless and without using a VPN to access apps and services. We done that in months, not years. And there's a lot of executives out there that would love to finish a project before they retire. So if you want to do that, then this could be the one for you.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you mentioned earlier where you might start. For me, identity has always been a critical part of zero trust, and if you can't get the identity part right, you're kind of doomed. So I don't know if you agree, but I think that's largely a good place to start as well.
So I used to run the authentication service in both companies. I never asked anyone's permission if they would like me to improve the authentication experience. It's like, would you like to log in less? Didn't seem like one of those questions you want to ask people.
Well, that was great, Den, and thanks for joining us, and also thanks for everybody else out there for listening. If anybody would like more information about Banyan Security or wants to contact Den, how can they go about that?
So our website is banyansecurity.io. So it's a great place to go and learn more about what we're up to. And then the other thing is I as a practitioner, would love to connect with anybody out there that wants to talk about things from security to zero trust. So easy to email me at den@banyansecurity.io, or within the website, you'll find office hours listed.
Excellent. And if anybody would like to learn more about 451 research or our views on the identity and access management world or zero trust, you can certainly come to 451research.com. Thanks, everybody.